Welcome to a special edition of Second Chance Points. I'm Dave Rudin, and I'm not doing my Invisible Man routine, but have some sort of issues with my camera on my computer right now. So it's a benefit to all of you. You don't get to see me today, but you do get to see my co-host, Colin Devine. Colin, how you doing? And thanks for joining me here on this bonus podcast.
Doing well. Glad to be back.
I'm looking pretty good today, huh? It's the best. People say it's the best I've looked in a long time. But we decided with games Monday and Wednesday this week, we didn't want to wait 5 days to talk about last night. So we would give you a little short bonus podcast here. And I think last night the theme, Colin, was return to normalcy. The teams that were highest touted that are in the playoff hunt right now, Staples and Wilton. Games maybe a little bit closer than expected, but they both won. And the game we'll probably talk about first was the game that to me was the prototypical, if I had to show or talk about just one game this year representing what the league was like, it was the Trumbull McMahon game. What any just initial impressions you had off of last night?
No, just another overtime basketball game for the FCIAC. We have to go back in the record books and check, but this might beat the record for most overtime games. Trumbull had a double overtime loss.
Triple overtime.
Oh, sorry, triple overtime loss at Stanford on Monday. Quick turnaround, gets a home win versus McMahon. McMahon rattled off 5 in a row prior to that. Some missed free throws. A little bit of sloppy play from both teams that we haven't seen. It could be just the one day of prep in between. But Trumbull got a must needed win, and they're going to play a huge game against New Canaan at New Canaan on Monday. So it was almost a must win for Trumbull last night.
Yeah, let's just for context right now. Of the 11 teams for 9 spots, I think we lost one last night in a head-to-head game. Darien, which was down, I think 10 points, 9 or 10 points going into the fourth quarter against Stanford, a furious comeback, and they came up a point short. So that puts them right now at 7 losses, and they have Ridgefield next. So I'm going to say for now that Darien, a valiant effort, but going to fall short. So that leaves us right now with 6 teams for 5 spots. We have it 8 and 5 right now: Stanford, Staples, and Wilton. Wilton with a tiebreaker edge, having beaten both teams. And then we have at 7 and 6, Trumbull, McMahon, and New Canaan. So we've got the race there. The game I was at, and to me, this was just like this was FCIAC basketball this year, was Trumbull, McMahon. The other game with 2 teams that are in the battle for playoff spots. McMahon went up by 12 points at the half. And rather than saying this is a blowout, I said this is FCIAC basketball. Trumbull plays everything close. They're going to make a run. And sure enough, they closed the third quarter with a 10-0 run to get back in the game. And it comes down in the last 16 and a half seconds. 2 of the best players on each team, Sean Reset and Grant Mack. Sean Reset at Trumbull, Grant Mackins at McMahon, each made 1 and 2 foul shots, kind of fitting. So the game goes to overtime. And then in overtime, Trumbull, which has had trouble with close games against playoff contenders, they pitch a shutout and outscore McMahon 7-0 and come away with a win that evens up puts them into a tie. Trumbull said everybody said they considered it a must-win game, and on senior night, their seniors, Sean Reset and Luca Antonio in particular, stepped up. After Staples, Trumbull's probably the team you know well, Colin, or know best.
I think we talked about it. I was there on Friday night, and they had the crosstown rival St. Joe's, and I was really impressed by Luca Antonio's leadership as well as Reset. And they got the leadership got everybody else involved. They got a good contribution from Ryan Johnston, And that a lot of that are attributed to Luka and Reset finding Johnson in the correct spot to get him an open shot and a direct pass for a layup. So I'm really impressed by their leadership down the stretch. And they've played a ton of overtime games, like we said, just like New Canaan. So this is kind of a win that they needed, obviously.
The other area where they really dominated was on the offensive boards. They pretty much had a size advantage, and they were getting second, third chance opportunities. That was another area. The one thing about Trumbull, and Sean Reset said it to me at the end of the game, and Buddy Bray, the coach, has said it all year long. His kids play hard for 32 minutes, which is why they've been in every game this year. And they were finally able to pull that off. This is the first chance I saw McMahon this year. First chance in a while. This, the first game in a while where I kind of looked at this them being involved in the biggest game. And I don't know if you've seen them at all. McMahon's not a bad team. They're kind of solid. There's nothing exceptional about them, and there's nothing weak about them either. I think Grant Matkins is one of the top players in the league. He, I would have him right now probably as a second team All FCAC type player, and they got a couple of other, really good players as well. They have Jason Miller, who's actually one of the few real point guards that I've seen this year, a legitimate playmaking point guard. And then they got a good big guy in the middle, Chris Rodriguez. So yeah, you look at McMahon after I at least saw him in person, and I say, I could see how Staples lost to them.
I saw
There you look at them, you say losing to them is not a big upset.
No, especially when they rattle off 5 in a row. And I think, it goes back to the old adage, who you play, when you play them, and where. I think McMahon caught some schedule early on. And then just to speak to the league, that they're going to play with everybody, and that's why they're in the middle of the pack in the hunt for the 5th through 8th spot right now. And you mentioned Rodriguez, number 10. He had a really good first quarter, or it might have been the second quarter last night, and he was part of that run in the second quarter to develop that 12-point lead. So they had a little bit of inside-outside game last night and played to their strengths, and they're going to be tough down the stretch.
Absolutely, and just looking ahead to Monday night, Trumbull. It looks like I'm going to be watching. I'm turning into the Trumbull beat reporter, because it seems like they're involved in the biggest game, and the biggest game with head-to-head play Monday night is Trumbull at New Canaan. And I'll get to New Canaan maybe right after this, and then McMahon, a tough one. Fairfield Ward is coming to town, riding an 11-game winning streak. So that's going to be a tough test for McMahon. And for Trumbull, going to New Canaan. New Canaan put on their big boy scoring shoes last night. I guess Danny Melzer was saving the scoring up, but in a balanced attack where they had 2 players with 9 points, 2 players with 8 points, New Canaan comes away with an impressive 62-30 win over Ludlow.
Yeah, and I just think that I wouldn't be surprised if Monday's game that you cover goes to overtime as well with Trumbull and New Canaan. But New Canaan and Trumbull play a little bit different styles, so that's going to be kind of exciting to watch. Coach Melzer's kept teams in the 30s. I want to say 8 times. Kept Ludlow in the 30s again, and found a way to score 62 points. Played at different speeds last night, which really I think is a key for them down the stretch, getting into the playoffs. And like you said, Trumbull wins a lot of the 50-50 balls. Buchanan's a little bit more methodical, so it's going to be a really exciting matchup on Monday.
I agree. Two teams that I think are top 8 teams. We'll see if they get there. I mean, actually, really, you look at all 9 teams, and I all consider them top 8 teams. It's really you look at that and you say, who doesn't belong? And I don't know who doesn't belong. We'll find out. It's going to be a tiebreaker to find out who doesn't belong. But all these teams are close to equal. New Canaan's has a good point guard in Bramlett, and they just were in a little bit of a scoring slump yesterday. May get them out of it. And just again, looking ahead, we have 2 games left in terms of what that's going to do for the winner. Trumbull's going to finish off against Bridgeport Central. I think I figured something out about Bridgeport Central because they only lost to Ward by 14 points last night. I'm betting Central got some players back from midseason from academic, maybe that were academically ineligible, because the last few games they've been playing everybody close, and they had that win over Wilton, and you look at their scoring. I'm betting they may have gotten a couple of players back. Yeah, I was trying to account for what was going on with Central, and that's my theory at least.
Yeah, you might be right. I haven't followed closely enough. And then New Canaan's got Greenwich on Wednesday as well. Trumbull's got obviously New Canaan and Central. So Monday's game is obviously pivotal for both teams.
Yep,
So
the winner's going to be in a real good position, and both Trumbull and New Canaan are on the road. So going to your old team, Staples, struggled in the first half against Norwalk. I was told Zajac, I guess, got picked up 3 fouls in like 3 minutes and hardly played in the first half, and the game was tied. And then a much better second half, and Staples got a balanced attack. You know, Zajac only played, I guess, like about 20 minutes or even a fewer, and ended up with 21 and 13 rebounds, and then balanced scoring. Sam Klocko, freshman, scored, I think, a career high 17 points. And then you had Charlie Honig with 13 and 7 assists, and Cody Sale with 12 points. That's the formula we've been saying all year. When Staples does that, they can play with anybody.
Yeah, and Norwalk's a tough team to play at home, and they have a first-team All-Leaguer in Jalen Brown, and he had a first-team All-League performance, a great performance with 31 points and almost 10 assists. And I was really impressed about how they kept it close with Staples. Was he was getting his teammates involved. He was beating double teams. He was splitting pick and roll coverages, throwing dimes. Pulling up for shots. Like he's a player, and he might be the toughest guard. If he's not, he's obviously might be the best guard, but he may be the toughest player to guard in the whole league.
That, you know, Dave Goldschar, the coach, texted me last night. All, you know, coaches send me in information on their games and sometimes quick conversations. He said that he's the toughest guard to guard, and you know, I'm looking at the box score, and he's got 27 points, and you say, okay, he carried the team, and then you see 9 assists. And it's just like, you know, that's he's not World Be Free shooting the ball at half court every time. You like that World Be Free reference?
That was a good reference.
I like that one. Probably half the people listening to this don't.
Maybe,
they're gonna have to
75% probably don't know that reference. It's okay.
Yeah, but it's you know, it's a credit to him, and I think with the way he's been playing, this is the first team all FCIAC teams all said they're the easiest first FCIAC all FCIAC team ever to pick. But you know, with Zajac, Plusser, and Jeffers and Cam Perkins, you know, I don't see how anybody can go, you know, dispute those 5. But like, you know, for Staples, a stabilizing game, and you know, I'm sure they weren't happy to be tied at halftime, but yeah, a second half, which is their formula to success.
Yeah, well, just like Wilton, and not to bounce around too much, it's a bottom line business. As you're getting to playoffs, you're playing for seeding. You want to play well, but all these Coach Gariak and Coach Goldshore would rather play lousy and win. And they got bottom line business. They got the job done last night. They got to watch film. They got to rest and prepare for next week. And Staples, I believe, has Darien and St. Joe's. And Dave, who does Wilton have left?
I know Wilton finishes with Danbury, and they have Ludlow, so they'll be a favorite. And then, you know, Danbury, they'll be an underdog. Staples plays St. Joe's, which actually St. Joseph plays Ridgefield tonight. They didn't play last night. I'm not sure why. So they play tonight. And then, as you said, Staples finishes with Darien, which has played everybody tough. So, you know, Staples and Wilton have control of their own destiny, along with Stanford. So I think Staples and Wilton are going to get in. We'll see, but Wilton actually again used their formula for early in the year. I was told that the game, and actually I just noticed here that I have a typo on my score here. I have to fix this. Wilton actually beat Greenwich 62-52.
Well, it's not your fault because I was checking the scores on CIAC. It says 62-42.
Okay, so
It was actually a
that
10-point game. So
okay, and that's yeah, and apparently from what Todd Trimmer texted me, it was a 1-point game with a minute to go.
yeah, I don't doubt it. Greenwich finds a way to play everybody tough. So
yeah, they've kind of been in the Trumbull situation. They play everybody close, but they haven't, unfortunately for them, been able to close out games. But Ryan Luciano with 13, Tommy McKiernan with 12, Matt Weiss with 11. Tommy McKiernan's is capable of going off, but Wilton's been playing its best when they've been getting balanced scoring, and that's what they did yesterday.
100%. And they've had that probably since game 5 or 6, the balance scoring and getting 10 to 12 players in the rotation off the bench. And that's been the key to their success all season.
And then Stanford maintains its position there, control of its own fate with a 46-45 win over Darien in a survival game. And Darien, like I said, made a furious run in the fourth quarter. I haven't seen any scoring information on that game, but it's going to be a tough road. Stanford's got to play. Well, actually, Stanford's got to play Norwalk. I thought they finished with Ridgefield. I thought they're gonna have, so they finished with Ridgefield. So they're gonna, if one and one's gonna get them in. So if they beat Norwalk, they're gonna clinch playoff spots. So they gotta just take care. They're gonna be a favorite in that game, and that they're gonna have to take care of business. And I think we've mentioned the all 6 teams that are Trumbull, McMahon, Stanford, Staples, Wilton, New Canaan. That takes care of them. Danbury with a 43-point win over West Hill, and the story there is we're just waiting for status. I think today's the day they're supposed to learn a little bit more about Cam Perkins' status, and Fairfield Ward with a 70-56 win. And Jack Plesser, 11 points, was third on the team in scoring. David Melson with 20 and Colin Devine with 18. And I said from day one, Melson and Devine got a lot of playing time last year. And if they play the way they're doing and they did against Staples the other night, they're right in the hunt there for championship.
Totally agree with that. Totally.
I don't know. I'm just kind of looking like what I wish for. I wouldn't mind. I don't think they would really love it, but I wouldn't mind a Wilton Staples first round. A 4-5 first round rematch where which is quite possible right now. With they played maybe the best game of the regular season with that 1-point overtime win by Wilton. So I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing that again.
That'd be a great second game, especially on a neutral court at Ward with 2 great fan sections. I don't think that's something not to ask for, because that'd be a great basketball game.
Staples going to get a little bit of a revenge tour, because they're going to depending where they are, they could also play Stanford.
That's right.
So they're going to play 2. They're more, chances are very good right now. They could be playing one of 2 teams that they lost to during the regular season, and 2 games I'm sure they're thinking they could have and should have won.
Yep.
So, people were texting me yesterday for tie-breaking situations. I said, I'm not even getting into tie-breaking situations till after Monday. They're just, it's just too impossible right now. Let's get a little bit more body of work. But the one, like I said, it's a good race. And to me, that Trumbull McMahon game yesterday is just, I'm saying that I think my first question to both coaches was, this was so FCIAC. I mean, this was if you had to show the FSAC in one game, that was the game.
No, I agree. And it's going to be another exciting week of FCIAC basketball next Monday, Wednesday, and we'll figure out the standings and be another great FCIAC tournament, Dave.
Yeah, and we'll figure out the podcast too, whether we're going to do something that might make sense to try to do what we did this week and go Tuesday, Thursday if possible. So anything in terms of, since we may not come on before the games, anything in terms of Monday night's games that
No, I think all the coaches and the players at this point know what's at stake. And first couple of minutes, they have some jitters, they'll settle down, and the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win the basketball game. And they have to play their game and have fun with their teammates and compete on every possession and treat it like a playoff game, because that's what it is.
Yep, and like I said, New Canaan Trumbull is the one game where where they're involved in head-to-head play. And most of the teams that are in the hunt are playing opponents, almost all of them, in which if there were betting lines on game, in which they would be favorites, except for McMahon against Ward. So that's going to be that's going to be a big game for McMahon to see if they can pull off the upset. All right, Colin. Well, this was I'm glad we got to do this extra podcast here with everything going on. I'm glad nobody has to see me. You get the Invisible Man routine. We'll get this fixed up for next week. And Colin, have a good weekend, and we'll do this again probably on Tuesday.
Thanks, Dave.
And that's our bonus episode of Second Chance Points. Again, want to, as always, thank Cooper Boardman for the great sound editing. The race is on. 2 more games to go, and then it's Super Saturday and the FCIAC quarterfinals coming up. We'll be back to talk about it next week. Have a good weekend, everybody.